You would imagine that Christmas Eve would involve too many sugar cookies, uncomfortable family hugs, and sparkling lights. The night my parents gave me a legal paper that essentially said, "Merry Christmas, you're dead to us," was the hardest for me. The living room of the home where I had grown up, with its luxurious carpets, high end furnishings, and roaring fireplace, felt strange all of a sudden. The envelope they handed me appeared quite harmless, but heavy. As if it was aware of the burden it bore, my father remained silent. With his arms folded like a disgruntled CEO in a boardroom, he simply observed me. My mother seemed to be extremely bored as she swirled wine in a glass, perched smugly on the arm of Mom's favorite leather recliner. My sister, Michaela, the golden child, already had a brand new diamond bracelet glittering on her wrist. "All right?" she chirped. "Do you not intend to open it?" Yes, I did. Slowly. Primarily because I was already aware that it wouldn't be good. My brain briefly refused to process the lawyer's speak when I unfolded the paper and read it. I remarked, "You're excluding me from the will." My hands trembled, but not my voice. The lawyer turned spineless puppet for the family. Ernest squirmed in his chair as if he wanted to go somewhere else. "I don't hold him responsible," Mom added without glancing at me. "You've made your decisions, and it's for the best, dear." "Ours has been made." "My options?" I asked, on the verge of giggling. "You mean that rather than working for the family business, I should start my own?" Dad spat. "A bakery, as if the term didn't taste good. You want to make a living baking cupcakes after we spent hundreds of thousands on your education." "Dad, they're more than cupcakes. I have this dream," he yelled. "Dreams don't pay the bills." Michaela is aware of her responsibilities. She is already establishing herself at the company. Just like that, Michaela's smile got bigger. "Zor, don't be too emotional. You anticipated this." "What were you anticipating?" I gently folded the paper, mostly to hide the fact that my fingers were shaking so much. I recalled dancing around the same tree with sparklers when I was 5 years old, while the lights on the Christmas tree glinted off the glossy paper. When family was still important. I rose up and smoothed up my dress, saying, "I actually expected better from my parents." "I'm a fool," Ernest whispered softly. "Zurl," as if his name would be enough to lessen the blow. "Perhaps we can talk about this after the holidays." "There's nothing to talk about," Mom interrupted. "The choice is final." I shrugged into my cold jacket after making my way to the coat rack. Maybe it was simply the lump in my throat, but the wool scratched at my neck. "Where do you believe you're headed?" Dad yelled. "Even dinner isn't ready yet." I grabbed my bag and remarked, "I don't feel hungry anymore." I turned back to them after pausing at the threshold and said, "You know what's funny? You believe that I am being punished. However, in reality," I grinned, really, since I had been anticipating this moment. "All I could hope for was that it wouldn't feel this amazing." "You're giving yourself more punishment than you think. What is the intended meaning of that?" Michaela was now standing beneath the chandelier, her jewelry flashing. I said, "Merry Christmas. And best of luck. I have a feeling that you will require it." I shut the door after myself. With the most satisfying finality, the hefty wood thudded shut. The world was muffled by the smooth, silent waves of snow falling outside. I took out my phone and made a call. "Natasha?" When she picked up, I said, "Yes, it's finished." They performed precisely as we had anticipated. Boots crunching fresh powder, I headed toward my car. "No, I'm all right. Actually, it's better than mediocre. Do you recall what we discussed?" "I believe the time has come." I didn't cry as I drove away from the only house I had ever known. Not by any means. I felt liberated. They believed that I was being left out of their story. What were they unaware of? Theirs was going to be written by me. I held a stale granola bar in one hand and a key in the other as I stood in front of the lakeside vacation home 3 months prior to that confrontation on Christmas Eve. My best friend, Natasha, was whistling as if she had discovered a hidden gold mine, and the air had a scent reminiscent of pine and frozen dirt. "And they really didn't remember that this was in your name?" As if she already owned the home, she walked up the porch steps and inquired. "Yes," I replied as I unlocked the door. "For tax purposes? Dad registered it in my name 5 years ago. Most likely doesn't even recall." Dust and that subtle, stale blanket odor filled the air inside. Everything appeared undisturbed. Throw pillows with nautical themes, pine furniture, and an odd fixation on ornamental lighthouses, as if it had all been flash frozen in 2018. As Natasha ran her fingers over a dusty banister, she whispered, "Whole ass vacation house. Are you certain they won't remember and attempt to retract it?" "It's lawful," I declared. They gave it their signature. "Just and equal. I own it." She looked out the windows on the lake. "What is its estimated value?" I showed her the realtor's estimate after taking out my phone. Her mouth fell open. "Oh my God, Zurl. That is sufficient to open your bakery and more." I imagined steam from cappuccino and freshly baked scones curving up in the morning sun as I ran my fingertips across the kitchen counter. Down payment, tools, rent for the first year. "It includes everything." She blinked. "Are you serious about doing it?" I grinned. "Don't just do it." "Make a big noise." Natasha opened the refrigerator, slammed it shut, and grimaced at the outdated condiments. "You realize that when they learn, they're going to go crazy?" I remarked. "That's the best part. They won't learn, not till the last minute." I learned more about municipal zoning laws than I ever wanted to know during the next few weeks, which were a blur of paperwork, real estate brokers, and covert meetings in coffee shops. The house sold quickly. It turns out that even when the lakefront property stinks like sorrow and mildew, it still moves. One morning over coffee, Brett looked over my business plan as if it were the Constitution and remarked, "You're really doing this." I slipped a piece of lavender honey cake across the table and remarked, "People always underestimate me." He literally closed his eyes after taking a single bite. "All right, don't do that. This isn't all you're doing. You're going to take over the city." I took out my laptop and added, "That's not even my best recipe. Look here, downtown. Heavy foot traffic. The rent is fair, large windows." He continued to chew as he nodded slowly. "You completed your assignments. However, do you really want to destroy this bridge?" I answered. "They set it on fire. I'm simply leaving the ashes behind." Natasha brought champagne to the vacant shop on the day I signed the lease. Surrounded by paint chips and optimism, we sat on the floor with paper cups and takeout pizza. She raised her cup and toasted, "To the Dreamweaver. I hope your retaliation tastes as delicious as your pastries." "It's not retaliation," I answered without thinking. "You're using a house your parents forgot they gave you to bankroll a business they mocked," she continued, glaring at me, "as their company circles the drain. That is retaliation on a gourmet level." I couldn't dispute that. The following day, contractors began ripping down drywall. Every choice I made, including the fixtures, tiles, and menu fonts with gold lettering, was a step away from the version of myself that my family attempted to shape. Copper lights that are warm, exposed walls made of brick, personalized display cases, a marble worktop that gave me the impression that I was standing behind authority. "What's the name?" "Dreamweaver Bakery and Cafe." Because it would sound magical if I had to create my own dang existence. We put up the sign after 3 weeks. As I stood across the street, I observed the gold lettering glinting in the sunlight. It had a crown-like sheen. It buzzed on my phone. "Michaela, parents are concerned. You're not picking up their phone calls." I returned the type. "Busy. Significant events are taking place." In less than a minute, she responded, "In any case, when your small pastime fails, don't come to us in tears." When the delivery truck with the high-end ovens arrived, I put my phone in my pocket. Let them believe it to be a pastime. One final time. Let them undervalue me. Unintentionally, the ovens inside pressed up against the front wall, so that they might be seen through the windows by anyone passing by. Show them the core of what I created. Give them a whiff. My parents' legal practice was located 2 blocks away, across the street. Windows with gleaming glass, chilly marble lobby, smug legacy based on handshakes and hierarchy, and now? A woman they disowned was now perfectly visible to it. You could smell the aroma of freshly made cappuccino and cinnamon pastries from across the street. What about karma? It was going to bake. After 3 months, we were usually sold out by midday. Somehow, the Dream Weaver had turned into the location. In the mornings, people waited in line as if we were giving away gold. Influencers on Instagram provided the illumination. The cardamom orange rolls drew foodies. Everyone else simply came because it tasted better and smelled like home. My newest employee, Sarah, screamed out from the front, "Zurl, we just scheduled another wedding cake consultation, 3 for the following week." After cleaning my apron of flour, I took a quick look inside the cafe. The huge windows were flooded with the morning brightness. From the copper sconces I had indulged in to the honeycomb tile floors, it illuminated the entire space like a cozy spotlight. Between the hiss of the espresso machine and the murmur of voices, I could hardly hear her. "Put them on the calendar," I answered with a smile. "We're doing well." "Literally," she retorted, presenting a dish of hot focaccia with rosemary. When Brett entered via the back door with a folded newspaper in his hand like a trophy, I was elbow deep in macaron batter. He tossed it on the counter and said, "You made the best of downtown list. Your red velvet cake was featured on Food and Wine's Instagram this morning." I grabbed him a cranberry orange scone and added, "That explains the extra 2 dozen pre-orders. Do you want your typical?" He took a bite as if he hadn't eaten in a week and responded, "Obviously. By the way, rumors are that your family's business isn't doing well. Still concentrating on piping tiny roses onto a bridal sample." I arched an eyebrow. "Oh? Last week, they let rid of 3 junior partners. In the alley behind our building, one of them was crying." I paused to check the cooling oven's temperature before responding, "Huh. When everything you've built on arrogance begins to crumble, it must be difficult." He remarked softly, "Most people would feel bad." I gave him a look. A cupcake didn't get most people disowned. With her phone in hand and her cheeks reddened from the cold, Natasha burst in that afternoon. She waved her phone as if it were on fire and exclaimed, "You have to see this. Can you guess who won the top spot in the food category?" My phone buzzed before I could respond. "Michaela, is it accurate? That 3rd Street building was purchased by you?" I grinned to myself. I had anonymously offered to purchase the building my father had been considering for the growth of his business. Prior to them countering, I made sure it passed. "I'm actually ordering 3, as I texted back. She answered in a matter of seconds. "Dad had intended to expand there. You're intentionally doing this, aren't you?" I said, looking up from the plate of macarons powdered with gold. "What are you doing? Managing a company? Investing wisely?" "Michaela, wasn't that the main goal of college?" For a long time, there was silence. "Next, Mom would like to know if you plan to join her for supper next week." I did not even hesitate. "Not possible. Catering the wedding of the mayor's daughter. However, you are invited to visit the bakery. We have an amazing humble pie." Whispering as if we were in a spy film, Natasha peeked into the kitchen as the ovens were starting up. "Your mother is present." I didn't raise my eyes. "My mother? Like Mom in a Burberry scarf, Vanessa. She is not alone either." Wiping my hands on my apron, I stepped out front. As expected, there she was. Mom, the epitome of calm poise, standing in the center of a crowded cafe, admiring the laughter, the flower arrangements, and the copper fixtures. She remained silent for a moment. Next, cautiously, "Zurl." I arched an eyebrow. "My name is that." "What am I able to get you?" She appeared uneasy. "It's almost like regret. I need to talk to your father. In private." I gave the back office a nod. "I have a position available at 5. Oh, p.m. Then we can speak. My workspace, not yours." She looked around the bakery once more. Forks clinking against plates, people giggling. Behind the counter, my team is working like clockwork. The door is lined up. She gave a rigid nod. 5 is it? I reversed the sign, shut the front door, and sent the employees home early at 4:58. Natasha, on the other hand, was completely listening in from behind the espresso machine while feigning to be cleaning tables. At precisely 5 o'clock, my folks showed up. They wore less of the cockiness they used to wear, like cologne, but still looked like they had something to prove. I pushed a plate of lavender shortbread across the table and poured tea onto fragile old china. Mom drank. Dad didn't. He declared. "This isn't a social call," I responded. "Could have fooled me." "Earl Grey." "Mom, isn't it your favorite?" Quietly, she stated. "We're here to talk business." I reclined in my seat. Now you want to talk business after disowning me and making fun of my dreams. Dad stated bluntly, "We need a partner. Someone with money. Someone with managerial skills." Are you referring to a cupcake baker? He flinched, didn't respond. Mom took a folder out. You have the opportunity to become a full partner in the company. Equal portions. The ability to vote, even when Michaela is present. I grabbed the folder, opened it, and gave it a quick glance. I then carefully and slowly tore it down the center, dropping the halves upon the table. "What are you doing in hell?" Dad yelled. Defending myself, I murmured. Mom appeared to have been struck with a frying pan. "You're not serious." I took a glance around my bakery, my walls, my decisions, my heritage. "You were correct," I replied. "I was not a part of your world. I constructed my own. From the beginning." They got up to go. At the door, my mother hesitated. "What about relatives?" Her voice was no more than a whisper when she requested. "You still find meaning in that, don't you?" I said. "It meant everything, until it became clear to me how little it meant to you." The door shut behind them. Natasha let out a deep, quiet breath that was intense. I cleared the teacups and remarked, "It's not over. They'll return." Then, I gave a shrug. "After that, they can line up like everyone else." They returned. They did, of course. They arrived after an additional month and a half and a bankruptcy filing. One Monday morning, with his hair still wet from the rain and a very wrinkled newspaper in his hands, Brett dashed into my office. They submitted a filing. I glanced up from an invoice pile. "Already? Last week, 3 significant clients withdrew," he continued, panting. Word got around quickly. Lines of credit dried up. It's similar to slow-motion domino falls. It buzzed on my phone. "Michaela!" I didn't respond. Brett, however, gave it a nod. "At the very least, see what she desires." With a groan, I switched it to speaker mode. She spoke in a shrill, frantic voice. "You are to blame for this. You too have a good morning. Jurel, you did this to us. Don't act as though you didn't." "No," I answered coolly as I turned to the vendor ledger and turned to the next page. "This is what you did to yourselves. I simply gave up trying to save you." A pause occurred. Her voice then became quiet. Something I hadn't heard in a long time. Actual. "Mom is a complete disaster. It's been days since Dad left his office." "Is this what you desired?" she inquired. Brett stared at me and shrugged. I stated, "I wanted a family that had faith in me before they needed me. I ended up with a family that abandoned me and claimed it was a favor." Quiet. "Tonight, we're having a family dinner," she declared. "It's 7 o'clock. You ought to attend." "Need to?" "No," she muttered. "Just, please." I arrived at my childhood home at 6:59. In some way, the mansion appeared smaller, similar to a huge balloon deflating, like something I hardly recognized that I used to fear. I knocked, but Michaela opened the door first. She appeared to have gone 2 days without sleep, as seen by her puffy eyelids. She moved over and remarked, "They're in the dining room. Avoid making things worse." "Sis, it's nice to see you too." Nothing had changed in the dining room. It's still freezing. "It's still too large," continuing to pose as a magazine advertisement for a fictional family. Like 2 kings whose kingdom had crumbled, Mom and Dad sat at opposite ends of the table. The room felt empty, even though the table was arranged as though we were hosting guests. "You arrived," Mom murmured softly. As I sank into the chair I hadn't used since college, I remarked, "I'm naturally curious." "What is this about?" Dad cleared his throat. "We have made errors. I'm not joking. The firm," Mom began. I cut in. "I am aware of the bankruptcy." "This morning," Brett informed me. "He did, of course," Michaela said. "Everything is gone," Dad added. "The house will be listed for sale. The vehicles. The vacation houses." I clarified. "You mean the one vacation home? It was sold months ago. Remember how you funded my tiny cupcake empire?" Mom winced. She declared, "We deserve that." "However, we remain family, are we?" I inquired. "Because you called it closure when you handed me legal documents during a Christmas cocktail the last time we were all together." "We were mistaken," Dad declared. "Almost everything. The company, your bakery, You. Michaela crossed her arms. Now, the Dreamweaver is more valuable than the company. Are you content? Without touching my dish, I pushed it aside. What are you looking for? A possibility, Mom said. To put things right, to reunite as a family. I gazed at them. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm now successful? We're not requesting money, Dad answered hastily. No? I raised an eyebrow in question. What are you requesting then? Pardon me, Mom muttered. I got up and moved toward the window. The garden where I used to envision my wedding was overgrown outside. The roses had vanished. It was overrun with weeds. Similar to the company. Are you aware of the irony? I turned back to them and inquired. I definitely would have helped you right now if you had been there for me from the start. No conditions, no lectures, simply helped. They remained silent, merely sat there, empty, keep quiet. So, what? Micah said. We simply grovel? Make a fresh start? Not for myself, I replied. For yourself. Do you wish to demonstrate your transformation? Then take action. You genuinely want to be different, not because I have what you desire. And in the interim? Mom inquired. I took out a tiny white package from within my backpack. Place it on the table. I've been working on this new recipe. It's dark chocolate and I call it Humble Beginnings. A bit sour, affixed with gold leaf. Michaela gave a snort. Is this a joke? No, I replied as I moved to the door. It serves as a reminder. To understand what really matters, sometimes you have to lose everything. I had a weird feeling as soon as I stepped outside. Not victory, not retaliation, just lifting weights. As if I no longer had to bear the weight of their acceptance. Michaela was sitting on the steps when I arrived to the bakery, early the following morning, to get ready for the day. Still dressed from yesterday. Her hair was in a loose ponytail and her makeup was smudged. How much time have you spent here? Since 5, she stated, erecting herself. I've been contemplating. Regarding what you said, concerning evidence, I unlocked the door and stepped past her. It's still early. I still haven't had any coffee. Talk clearly. I'd like a job, she declared. The measuring cup clattered on the counter after slipping out of my hand. You what? She declared. I want to work here, dishwashing, sweeping the floors. In any case, I must comprehend everything. You have never in your life worked in the food service industry. I understand, but I'd like to know. For real. Why? She explained. Because I have nothing left to lose, and I must begin somewhere. I threw an apron at her. Start by cleaning the tables. I spent the next 6 hours watching my sister, who used to laugh at the thought of opening a bakery, clean floors, scrape tables, and struggle with an industrial dishwasher as if her life depended on it. I saw her hands bleeding at one point, broken and crimson. I handed her a tube of hand cream and said, Here, the first thing to learn about service work is that you can't take care of business if you don't take care of yourself. She didn't dispute, simply nodded and silently rubbed it in. Mom entered later with the lunch rush. She halted upon seeing Michaela at the bar, her apron dusted with flour and her hair tied up. What are you doing? Her voice broke as she asked. Michaela grabbed coffee for table 6 and said, Working. Next, Z has me on napkin duty. I grinned. She's not that horrible. Mom said, You're a lawyer, as if uttering that aloud could turn back time. Had a legal profession, Michaela clarified. I'm learning how to earn a decent living now. Mom turned to face me and asked, Is this a punishment? I restocked the pastry display and said, No, she has a choice. Probably the first serious one she's produced. Mom replied softly, I came to tell you something. The house was sold. Next week, we'll be relocating to a tiny apartment. Well, I replied, perhaps you'll eventually discover how the rest of us live. She appeared worn out. Not in an ostentatious manner, in a genuine manner. Your dad is trying to find a job. Really? I raised an eyebrow in question. What sort? Whatever, she said. However, nobody is hiring. He truly deserved his reputation. She didn't dispute. She glanced at Michaela and then at me before leaving. Would you think about employing your dad? In fact, I laughed. No chance. She appeared injured. I didn't give a damn. However, I also mentioned that a new cafe will open in one of my buildings the following month. Perhaps I will add a word. As, what? Which lever? I said. The same location where Michaela began. Natasha returned for her afternoon cinnamon roll after she had left. Did I just pass your mother? Yes, I replied, passing her a new one. And my sister is restocking salt shakers there. Her mouth fell open. All right, what parallel reality did I just enter? I grinned. The one where karma eventually showed up for work. I was standing in front of my newest purchase, a 3-story Victorian on Main Street, 6 months after Michaela began doing the dishes at the Dreamweaver. New paint. Windows were restored. The front was adorned with gold letters that glistened like a silent triumph. Dreamweaver Enterprises. For a girl who just makes cupcakes, it's not bad. Brett was standing next to me, drinking his typical cup of coffee. He nodded toward the morning delivery truck emptying flour crates and remarked, "You've built an empire. Now, your name is everywhere." Taking a box of pastries, Michaela got out of my car. She wore sneakers and pants. She had chipped nails, previously manicured to within an inch of their lives. Her hands now had tattoo like lines of flour, the kind you work for. As she adjusted the box beneath her arm, she yelled, "Contractors want their usual." Brett gave her a quick look. "How is your dad doing at his job at the cafe?" "I'm still doing the dishes," she stated. "I'm still whining. However, he appears daily." "And your mother?" "She received a promotion. The department store's shift supervisor. She appears to be lighter." I looked across at Michaela. "Are you prepared for a promotion of your own?" She blinked. "Hold on, what?" I reached inside my backpack and took out a manila envelope. "Across town, we're opening another Dreamweaver. Someone that is familiar with both the front and back of the house is what I require. Someone I can rely on." She appeared to be having trouble breathing. "However, after everything, I told you that you deserved it. The difficult road. The proper manner." For once, she didn't try to blink away the tears that filled her eyes. The new facility was bustling with activity inside, with designers, electricians, and cables everywhere. I was met at the stairs by my assistant. She muttered, "Your father is here. The lobby is where he is." I discovered him wearing clothing I had never seen on him before, close to the front desk. Jeans that are plain, grizzled hands. There was a distinct, more genuine, but smaller, pride in his posture. He cleared his throat and remarked, "Nice building. Thank you. Why have you come here?" "A manager position at the cafe was offered to me." "That's fantastic." I declined. He stated, "I still haven't earned it." I looked at his face. "The same person who once informed me that dreams aren't able to cover expenses. That's what you taught me," he said softly. After that, he gave me an envelope. There was a check inside, tiny. Most likely everything he had kept. "For the holiday home," he uttered. "I am aware that it was yours legally. However, I want to put things right." After holding the check for a while, I ripped it right down the center. "Retain it," I said. "I won't need it as much as you will." He appeared to be in danger of breaking. "Keep working if you truly want to make it right," I replied gently. "Continue to learn. Never forget what it's like to start from scratch." With hazy eyes, he nodded. His voice cracked as he said, "I'm proud of you. I ought to have stated that years ago." "Yeah," I replied with a sorrowful smile. "You ought to have." With a clipboard in hand, Michaela dashed through the front door. The health department gave their approval. "We can begin hiring." "Oh," she continued, recognizing Dad. "Hello," he informed her. "She gave me a job offer. Did you accept it?" He gave a head shake. "Not just yet. I still have a lot to learn." Slowly, she nodded. "Well done." I saw these two individuals, who had before believed that a Rolex and a pedigree were necessary for success, suddenly standing in my building with humility in their bones and flour under their fingernails. I said, "Let's get to work." The local business awards arrived a few weeks later. I had no intention of going. A plaque wasn't necessary for me. Michaela, however, persisted. She adjusted her own name tag and remarked, "You're not going to miss this. The regional director is Michaela Fernandez." Mine just stated, CEO of Dreamweaver Enterprises, Zurl Fernandez Easy. Tidy. It's true. The front table was where we sat. In modest clothing, my folks were sitting close to the rear. They purchased their own tickets. One more silent accomplishment. As the mayor took the microphone, Brett smiled at me. She started off by saying, "This year's recipient has transformed our downtown, produced jobs, created something from the ground up that emphasizes tenacity, fortitude, and the taste of salvation." As I stood up, heels clicking softly on the smooth flooring, the room cheered. I forgot to pack my speech. I took out the old envelope instead. The Christmas Eve one, the one they disowned me from. Ever since, I'd carried it with me. I said, "This was my letter of disinheritance." It used to remind me of the feeling of rejection. I glanced at the other side of the room. Mom's hand was on Dad's. Both of them were in tears. It makes me think of something else now, that not all legacies are passed down. They're constructed from the ground up, with hands that are rough, nights without sleep, and those who had the courage to believe when others had not. Everyone laughed when Natasha whooped from the third row. More than accomplishment, though, I realized that true growth, is observing people transform. You included. It's seeing your sister intentionally swap privilege. It's witnessing your parents realize the value of a truthful paycheck. I stopped and held out the ripped envelope. It's baking a new beginning out of grace and bitterness. At first, the applause was gentle. Then it let forth a roar. Following the ceremony, my parents came over. Dad muttered, "We don't deserve that speech," I answered. "It's not about what you deserve. What you do with what comes next is what matters." Mom gave me a tearful grin. "We take pride in it. Not from the empire, but of you. Even if you don't have your family name behind you." I arched an eyebrow. I created my own reputation. One lengthy shift at a time, one lemon tart, one cappuccino. Michaela approached with a smile. "Tell them." "Tell us what?" Mom inquired. I announced, "We're turning one of the downtown properties into a community center. Incubators for businesses. Programs for training. There used to be genuine support for those with aspirations similar to mine." "Like doing the dishes?" Dad half smirked as he asked. "Just like that." I looked at Mom. "We require educators. Actual material. Similar to beginning anew, overseeing retail budgeting without lavish safety precautions." "Are you intrigued?" She blinked. "You want me to impart that knowledge to others?" I gave a nod. A person who hits rock bottom in heels knows it better than anyone else. The tension broke when she laughed. She muttered, "I'd be honored." We later ate leftover cinnamon buns and sipped wine from mismatched cups at Natasha's house. "You succeeded," she remarked. "You got what you deserved." I watched the lights in my city flash on one by one as I peered out the window. "No," I replied. I was emancipated. That was always the intention. Some triumphs are noisy. Among them are champagne and press releases. The finest ones, though, they are silent. As soft as the aroma of freshly baked bread. Hardwood floors that are warm like sunlight. The individuals who broke you are learning how to build again. Slowly, just one dish, one choice. A little day at a time. Sometimes proving people wrong isn't the sweetest kind of victory. It's assisting them in becoming correct.